begin with you. Medical marijuana is legal in Washington. What legislation or memorials would you support to harmonize its growth, distribution, and use?
Marijuana use to me is pretty funny because people get it all the time when it's illegal, and they've got no problem finding it. And I would say, if the state really wants to pursue that, good luck on collecting the taxes, because criminals they're not going to come up and go, oh, hey, I just sold a dime bag, here you go. You know, it's unrealistic, and for them to provide it on pharmaceutical companies, there's different qualities. And some people, they're not going to go to the pharmacy and pick up their marijuana. They're going to go get the good stuff somewhere else. So if the people want it, I'd be all for helping them get it. It just doesn't make sense to me. I don't see that.
James?
The question again, please.
Medical marijuana is legal in Washington. What legislation or memorials would you support to harmonize its growth, distribution, and use?
Well, frankly, that's an in-the-weeds question. I gotta say, I'm not a career politician. I haven't been a career politician. I haven't been hanging around Olympia a long time. I read the paper, I live in the world. Medical marijuana, if it's legal, it's legal. It needs to be run tight. We can't have medical marijuana shops popping up with everybody saying, oh, I got a bum toe, get me medical marijuana. That causes a severe disrespect for the law. So first of all, they've got to run that thing as a tight ship, or it otherwise becomes a backdoor way for everybody to get, weed from the state. And just segueing that into the broader question about the legalization of marijuana, Ms. Appleton floated some bill having to do with marijuana that went up in smoke and never passed. The people tried to float something about the legalization of marijuana, but apparently they were too distracted to get the significant number of ballots in. I don't support the legalization of marijuana.
James, we'll begin with you on this next question. What are some of your ideas to provide health care to the almost 1 million Washingtonians without insurance?
That's an interesting question. It's identical to what I heard last night, but it's a good question. Okay, I believe the neediest, and I mean the needy, I don't mean people who are just like, the weak and the needy need to be taken care of. That's a paramount core mission of the state to do, and churches and families, but we're talking about the state. The way to fund that, again, is not to take these agencies like the good parts of DSHS and say, go fend for yourself against the ferry system and the Washington Department of Transportation and Rob McKenna's office. It doesn't end up right. They can't fight a big enough battle. If the state can operate efficiently, as I said earlier, and streamline, get the pay down, have state workers bear their fair share of the pain, then you're going to end up with enough money to take care of the needy, more than enough. And I want private communities and churches and organizations and families also to step up.
As I said last night, Obama got us all health care, and it's ridiculous to think that people didn't have access to health care because everyone's allowed to go to an emergency room and get medical treatment. They cannot turn people away. So for people to go, what do we do with that? I go, I've never been turned away when I went to a doctor, and I don't have health care myself. You man up and you pay the bill. I go, I don't know what can fund that, but I don't think it's a major topic right now, in my platform anyways.
Next question, Aaron, we'll begin with you. 48 states face deficits just like ours under both Republican and Democratic governors. Isn't it hypocritical to pretend we have a problem only because we have a Democratic governor?
Is it? Well, apparently that's what the question implies, that the governors and everybody have that issue. I would say more so it depends on the legislature and Senate. I think they're the ones who ultimately control what the spending is. I mean, the government signs off on it, but they don't have overall say. It's up to the legislature and Senate to work together to make the budgets balance and not go into a deficit. That's all I can say.
James?
Okay. So there's no question. I mean, it's almost a tautology to say that 48 states are having this problem. Yeah, the entire nation is in the throes of some severe problems, as well as a lot of European countries. Spain, Portugal, whatever those pig countries, they refer to them as an acronym. And no, it does not let Christine Gregoire and the Democratic leadership here off the hook. That's nice. Everybody's suffering. We're all suffering. We're all victims. No, there are steps that Christine Gregoire refused to take, having to do with years ago when she won re-election. There was a handy surplus at that time. She basically took care of and rewarded her unions after that was over and drove down the surplus so it was gone. Then they were operating with deficits. She got $3 billion in stimulus money to balance this. So yes, it is perfectly fair and justified to criticize Christine Gregoire and the Democrats for increasing taxes and further stifling business.
Thank you. James, we'll begin with you on this next question. What are your ideas on streamlining school expenditures while maintaining and creating a higher standard of education?
Okay. One of my key 3 planks is excellence in education. And to get to that excellence in education, we cannot continue to do it the same way. Money is not the problem. And even if it's money, as they say, it's for the kids. Money is not the problem. Washington, D.C., they spend $18,000 per student, and they've got a totally broken school system. But what we need to do is the school system needs to have less administrators, more field teachers. We need to have consolidations. We've got school districts that are co-located, that could be combined. I know you want your community to be responsive to you. You don't want one gigantic state, board for the entire state. They can combine some of these things. Too many teachers, not enough teachers, too many administrators. We need to have charter schools. We need to have vouchers for use of private schools. The Catholic schools do a fine job for far less than we do. And we might take a look at tenure and the pay scale for teachers. I love teachers. And the NEA and the WEA. Reform those two.
Aaron?
I feel streamlining schools would be take care of administration. There's way too much out there. I mean, we have superintendents on top of superintendents. It's ridiculous, and that's the top epsilon of pay scale right there for them. And I'm just highly disappointed in the school systems in our area. We supposedly have $12,000 spent per student, and is all that money getting to the classroom? Not at all. I mean, everybody has to buy school supplies for their kids. You get a big old list. Provide this, provide this. Back when I went to school, my parents didn't provide that stuff, the schools did, because they budgeted for that. I mean, my son hasn't even brought home a textbook. I go, that's ridiculous. What happened to the textbooks? I mean, we get one-page printout. I go, I'd streamline it by taking it back to the old school days and helping teachers get to teaching.